Here is the recap of the first season of Daredevil Born Again. To understand some moments in this series, you had to watch the 2015 Daredevil TV show from Netflix and other related projects. For your convenience, there are recaps of them on my channel. Several years have passed since the events of Daredevil Season 3. Matt continues to be a superhero while also working alongside his friends at their law firm. One day, for some unknown reason, Dex attacks them and kills everyone in his path. He fatally wounds Foggy and the man dies in Karen's arms. An enraged Matt catches up with the psychopath on the roof and beats him up. Then he throws him down, intending to kill him. However, Dex survives and is sent to a maximum security prison. Also on the roof, a policeman named Cherry learns that Matt is Daredevil, but he doesn't tell anyone about it. A year passes and Matt Murdock is no longer a superhero because of everything that happened earlier. Karen has moved to San Francisco, and Matt, along with former District Attorney Kirsten, has started a new law firm, and the same former cop Cherry is working with them. Matt lives a quiet life as crime in the city has decreased recently. He soon meets Heather, a therapist, and they begin to have an affair. After a while, however, he learns that Wilson Fisk is running for mayor of New York City. We are not told exactly when and for what reason the villain was released from prison. He probably just did his time. All this time, his wife Vanessa secretly ran a criminal business and made it incredibly profitable and stable. When Fisk decided to become mayor, he kind of stepped away from his past dealings, but of course it's all part of a bigger plan. Soon Matt meets with Fisk and threatens him. If he is found to be involved in criminal activity, Daredevil will return. Fisk responds in kind. If Daredevil returns, he's going to have to take some action, because part of the new mayor's political campaign is to get the masked vigilantes off the streets, and it's thanks to them that New York City has seen less crime lately. Also, Fisk, together with Vanessa, goes to the counseling to the psychotherapist Heather. The thing is that Fisk disappeared from Vanessa's life for some time, and the woman was lonely. She met Adam, an artist, and started dating him. One day, a man named Hector stands up for a guy who was beaten up in the subway. It turns out that the attackers were cops, and they decided to teach Hector a lesson, but by accident, one of the cops fell under the train. Hector gets arrested and wants to go to jail for murder. Matt accidentally learns about the case and becomes Hector's lawyer. It soon becomes clear that the man is one of the masked vigilantes nicknamed the White Tiger. This complicates things, and Matt initially tries to make sure that this information doesn't come out in the courtroom. But when the only witness denies his presence at the scene, Matt has to change his strategy and tells everyone that Hector is the White Tiger. As a result, the man is acquitted and released. Also, while Matt was investigating the case, he met the very cop who started the fight with Hector. Not surprisingly, the New York police station is full of corrupt officers, and he even tried to kill Matt as an unnecessary witness. However, Daredevil manages to get out. After his release, Hector continues his superhero activities, except that on the first night, an unknown person blows his brains out. Matt discovers a shell casing at the crime scene and realizes that it has an image of a skull like Punisher's. Turns out some New York cops consider Frank Castle a hero and emulate him. Matt visits Punisher, who has retired, and asks for his help, but he refuses. Fisk wins the mayoral election because he, unlike the other candidates, does something for the city. But it turns out that the political world is much more complicated than the criminal world. The police chief wants to resign in protest, which will undermine the reputation of the new mayor. But Fisk manages to blackmail him into staying in his position. He also creates a special squad, assembled from the most problematic cops in the city. These officers will be endowed with additional privileges, and their task is to catch heroes and villains in masks. Some citizens agree with the mayor's actions, but there are also those who believe that the cops are not doing their job and only masked vigilantes protect the city from crime. Meanwhile, young journalist B.B. Ulrich is also digging into Fisk, and she knows that the mayor was the main suspect in her father's death. She has to write positive articles about Fisk to get close to him. Also working for the villain is a young guy named Blake, who is very loyal to his boss. so Fisk decides to make him the head of public relations. Matt goes to the bank to settle his firm's finances. There he meets Kamala Khan's father, also known as Miss Marvel. When Matt leaves the bank, robbers break in and the main character decides to return. It turns out that the criminals came here for a certain deposit box, which contains a very expensive diamond. Matt manages to disarm several of them and warn the police. However, when the SWAT team breaks into the bank, one robber manages to escape. Matt catches up with him, beats him up, and breaks his leg out of anger. The bank employees think that someone has taken the jewel, but Matt stealthily brings it back. The White Tiger's daughter comes to Matt and tells him that her father stumbled upon something important before he died and had been conducting some kind of investigation related to missing people for a long time. Matt tries to calm the teenager down, but she doesn't listen to him and decides to continue the White Tiger's case herself. The girl sneaks into old abandoned tunnels, where she is kidnapped by an unknown masked man. It turns out that for some time now, a certain artist nicknamed Muse has been creating provocative murals on the streets of the city. Soon it is discovered that each graffiti contains the blood of real people, and the police estimate that there are over 50 victims. We later learn that this artist is an unstable guy who also sees a therapist named Heather. He's obsessed with her and also wants to get his hands on her blood. Meanwhile, Matt learns that White Tiger's daughter is missing. The main character can't just let it go, so he puts on the Daredevil costume and rushes to the abandoned tunnels. He manages to get there just at the moment when Muse starts sucking the blood out of the teenager. Matt manages to defeat the maniac, but then the police from the anti-vigilante squad appear. Muse hides in the mess, but the cops manage to spot Daredevil, and they report it to Fisk. The next day, Matt returns to the tunnels to figure out where to find the Muse. He discovers paintings of his girlfriend Heather and realizes she is in danger. The anti-vigilante task force learns the same thing and heads to the therapist's address. Right about that time, Muse is in her session, and the woman realizes who he really is. The guy ties her up and is about to drain all the blood. However, Daredevil shows up. After a brief battle, a freed Heather shoots Muse and kills him, after which she passes out from blood loss. Matt has to escape as the police arrive and they rescue Heather. Fisk decides to capitalize on the incident, and the press makes it sound like Muse was killed by the mayor's task force, though many people know that this is not true, as they saw Daredevil flying into the building. Meanwhile, the gangs of New York, having learned that Fisk has retired from crime, begin to get out of control. One of the leaders, named Luca, thinks he can take over the city and tries to kill Fisk. However, the mayor and his wife have no problem dealing with this threat. We also learn that Fisk has found Vanessa's lover named Adam. He keeps him in a cage for a while and doesn't know what to do with him, since he promised his wife not to kill him. So one day he brings Vanessa to the basement and offers her to decide Adam's fate. The woman does not hesitate to kill her former lover. Meanwhile, Fisk decides to restore industry in New York, and for this, he wants to renovate an abandoned port. Except that he encounters bureaucracy. Influential people of the city do not see prospects in this project, so they sabotage this renovation. However, Fisk, apparently thanks to his connections in the criminal world, manages to push through the repair of the port. Heather comes to her senses, and after what happened, she begins to view both the villains and the masked heroes negatively. She saw that Daredevil came then, but she does not consider him her savior. Amidst all of this, the couple fight. Suddenly, Fisk's assistant comes to Matt's house and gives Heather an invitation to a charity event. The main character does not understand how the mayor knows her and guesses that she is his therapist. He tries to warn Heather that Fisk has deliberately gotten close to her to get to him, but he doesn't have time to say enough as Matt is urgently called back to work. Meanwhile, Dex is being transferred to a general population cell on Fisk's orders. This is roughly tantamount to death, as the former FBI agent will definitely be killed there. Matt learns that Dex has requested a private meeting with him. By the way, the villain knows that Matt is Daredevil. Matt is initially reluctant to go, but soon learns that maybe Dex didn't kill Foggy for revenge, but on someone else's orders. In jail, Matt asks the villain about it, but he asks for a lawyer to get him out of jail first. A furious Matt beats up Dex and leaves. However, it turns out that's exactly what the psycho wanted. In the sickbay, he uses a knocked-out tooth to kill a guard. He uses objects to fight his way free and eventually escapes from prison. Heather arrives at the charity ball along with Matt. The main character tries to listen in on what Fisk is up to and realizes that it was Vanessa who hired Dex to kill Fogey because his friend took the wrong case. He guesses that while Fisk was out of the picture, his wife was running her husband's criminal business and doing it in a much more secretive manner. He warns Heather that it might not be safe here and goes to talk to Vanessa. Suddenly he hears the cocking of a rifle and realizes it's Dex. For some reason, Matt saves Fisk by shielding him from the bullet. He comes to his senses already in the hospital and hears the mayor's assistant, holding a syringe, about to enter his room. Suddenly, the lights in the whole city go out, and the main character escapes, deciding not to find out the reason for his appearance. It turns out that Fisk has begun to put his plan into action. He faked a blackout in New York. Blaming it on criminals, he gave himself the permission to impose martial law and curfew in the city. Fisk kidnaps powerful people in the city and locks them in cages. He got almost all the cops on his side and killed the chief of police. The streets of the city are in chaos, which is actually to Fisk's advantage. Wounded Matt comes home, where he meets Frank Castle. Soon they are attacked by corrupt cops, but they manage to fight back, although the main character's apartment is blown up. It turns out that the Punisher was called by Karen, who has returned to New York. Matt asks Frank to join him in the fight against Fisk, but the man says that he has his own methods. The Punisher ends up going off on his own. He kills a certain number of corrupt cops, but is caught. Since he is still treated as a hero, he is not killed and is put in a cage. But in the post-credits scene, he manages to get out. Meanwhile, Matt and Karen try to figure out why Vanessa ordered Dex to kill Foggy a year ago. After pulling up old documents, they guess that their friend wanted to interfere with the renovation of that very port. Fisk and Vanessa's plan is that the port is kind of outside of the United States territory, which means that if it works, this place will be the perfect cover to launder money and do other illegal things without paying attention to the laws of the country. Matt realizes that he can't just get to the Fisks, so he decides to gather his army of people who are ready to fight for freedom. This is the end of the first season. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the like button. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.